Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive, where we like to kind of take things a little bit deeper. And today we're going to be looking at a fascinating Ask Brexit thread
Oh, yeah.
where people were asked,
hmm
point blank, what is holding you back from living your best life?
It's such a simple question,
Right.
but the answers are anything but simple.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot of the typical answers,
Uh-huh.
but some of them really went,
Yes.
some of them were philosophical.
Deeply personal.
Some of them are really funny.
Yeah.
But before we get into all that, I want to pose the question to you listening at home. What is holding you back?
Right.
What is the big obstacle in your life right now as we explore what other people are saying?
Yeah, and what resonated with them, because there is a really interesting mix of, I think, the expected and the unexpected
Yeah,
when it comes to these answers.
yeah, for sure. So, I don't think this will come as a surprise to anybody, but
Mm.
the number one answer by far
Oh, yeah.
was
By a landslide.
money.
Yes.
And
It's interesting, though, because it wasn't always just about, wanting to be rich,
right,
right? It was about this idea of
security.
and the freedom that comes with not having
Yeah,
to worry about money.
yeah. I think one user summed it up perfectly. They said,
Oh.
"My bank account and a crippling fear of failure, but mostly my bank account."
Yeah, it's like this constant weight holding them back from taking risks, pursuing their passions, even just basic survival sometimes.
Absolutely. And you see this playing out in a lot of the responses. People talking about being stuck in dead-end jobs,
Yeah,
not being able to, go back to school or pursue, some creative field that they've always wanted to because they're just
yeah,
trying to make ends meet.
absolutely.
There was even one user who talked about having to put their dreams on hold because they were caring for a sick family member
Yeah.
and they couldn't afford to take time off work.
Right. And that's where it starts to get really interesting, because it goes beyond just the individual and it forces us to look at the systemic factors at play.
Right.
Right. This feeling of being trapped is often tied to larger issues like wage stagnation, the rising costs of living, the pressure to constantly hustle.
Yeah.
And some users even pointed to the 40-hour work week itself,
Oh, interesting.
arguing that it's this outdated model that really stifles creativity and prevents people from, finding true fulfillment.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's not just about individual choices or a lack of motivation. It's about, like you said, those larger systems that are contributing to that feeling of being held back.
Absolutely. And it encourages us to look beyond just individual solutions and consider how we can collectively create a society that fosters well-being
Right.
and allows people to flourish regardless of their financial situation.
Yeah. And that's a whole other conversation.
It is.
But I think it's an important one to have.
For sure.
So money was the big one, but mental health
Yes.
came in as a close second.
Absolutely.
And these responses were really raw
Very raw.
and insightful.
Yeah.
One user, for example, talked about just feeling like they were living in their own head.
Mm-hmm.
Just constantly replaying past mistakes, ruminating on what they ought to be doing instead of actually doing it.
Right. And that really gets at the heart of how anxiety and depression and even past trauma can act as these invisible shackles
Yeah.
that rob you of your joy, your motivation, even your ability to just be present in your own life.
It's like this constant loop of self-doubt and overthinking.
Absolutely.
And there was this other story that really stuck with me. It was from a user who was struggling with alcohol addiction.
Oh, wow.
They talked about feeling completely burnt out at work. Their wife had kind of lost interest. They were in therapy, but still felt really lost.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just heartbreaking to read.
Yeah.
But what was really amazing was to see the outpouring of support that they received in the thread.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, people were sharing their own experiences with sobriety, offering words of encouragement, recommending resources.
Yeah.
It was just this really beautiful reminder that even when you feel completely alone,
Mm-hmm.
there are people out there who understand and want to help.
Absolutely. And that sense of connection can be so crucial when you're facing those kinds of challenges.
Yeah,
Right? Reminds you that you're not alone in your struggles and that recovery is possible.
for sure.
It's a powerful reminder that sometimes, the biggest obstacles aren't about achieving some grand version of the best life.
Right.
It's about navigating those real
Yeah.
and often painful experiences that
Yeah.
really shape who we are.
And what I found so interesting is that
Mm-hmm.
there was this just incredible honesty and vulnerability
Yes,
in these responses. Like, I
definitely.
don't know if it's the anonymity of Reddit or what.
Yeah, it speaks to that human need for connection,
Yeah.
right? For knowing that you're not alone in your struggles.
Yeah, and maybe Reddit provides this unique space for that.
Yeah, with its anonymity and its vast reach.
Exactly. And it makes you think about how living your best life isn't this
Right.
like one-size-fits-all
It's not
formula.
a checklist.
Right. It's about really understanding
Yeah,
your own unique obstacles, right?
absolutely.
Internal and external, and how to move forward with those.
Yeah, for sure. And what's interesting is that it wasn't all just doom and gloom. There was also this undercurrent of
Oh,
self-awareness
yeah.
and even humor
Oh,
sprinkled throughout.
like one user just said,
Me.
me.
Yeah,
Another one said, about $100 million. Yeah.
exactly.
So,
It's that recognition that even when dealing with these serious challenges,
yeah.
we can still find a way to kind of laugh at ourselves and
Yeah.
the absurdity of it all.
And that's an important
Yeah.
coping mechanism, I think.
Absolutely. It allows us to acknowledge those difficulties without being completely consumed by them.
Right. It's like finding that little bit of light in
Yeah.
the darkness.
Exactly.
So, okay, so we've talked about money, we've talked about mental health, those big expected hurdles,
The big ones, yeah.
but there were also some less common,
Yeah.
but equally powerful
Yes.
obstacles that popped up in this thread.
Absolutely. And those are the ones that I think really challenge our assumptions about what holds people back.
Yes. And they really got me thinking.
Right. Because it reminds us that everyone's journey is unique.
Exactly. Like one user talked about having this genetic disease,
Oh, wow.
and they're now legally blind and in the wheelchair.
Hmm.
And they talked about how their illness really forced them to reevaluate their priorities
Yeah.
and to make every moment count.
Wow.
And it was just so powerful to read about their perspective.
It's a beautiful example of how, even in the face of adversity, people find ways to adapt and create meaning in their lives.
And it really makes you question, like, what is a good life anyway?
Right, exactly. It challenges our definition of that.
Completely. And then there was another user who talked about losing a parent
Mm-hmm.
and how grief was still so deeply impacting their choices, even years later.
Oh, wow.
You know, they were just struggling to move forward, like they felt like they had lost their joy. And
Yeah, it raises that question of how loss shapes our lives, right?
Yeah.
And how we process grief. And it's a reminder to be gentle with ourselves and others who are navigating those really complex emotions.
absolutely, because it's not just about, you know, achieving something in
Yeah.
a specific, it's about learning to cope with
Yeah.
those curveballs that life throws at us.
Absolutely, those unexpected events that can completely change our trajectory.
And it makes you realize that, you know, those things that hold us back are sometimes not even about us.
Yeah.
It's about, you know, things that have happened,
It's about circumstances.
the people we love, or,
Yeah.
you know.
Absolutely. And it highlights the importance of giving ourselves and others grace and understanding as we navigate those challenges.
So we've explored, you know, these big external hurdles like money and the internal struggles like mental health.
Mm-hmm.
But what about those unique, often overlooked obstacles
Yeah.
that shape our paths? The things that we don't always talk about,
Right.
but have a profound impact on our lives.
Absolutely. These are the stories that often get buried beneath the surface,
Yeah.
but they hold a wealth of insight, and they remind us that living your best life isn't this linear path.
Right.
It's about navigating the twists and turns, the unexpected detours, and finding ways to keep moving forward.
And sometimes those detours, you know, lead us to these
Yeah.
unexpected destinations.
Totally.
Places we never could have imagined.
Places we never would have chosen.
Right.
But they end up being exactly where we need to be.
Exactly what's so fascinating about all this is that
Mm.
these seemingly individual stories
Yeah,
often reveal these universal truths about the human experience.
absolutely.
It reminds us that we're all interconnected.
Yeah.
You know, we're all facing similar
Both
struggles.
in this together.
We're all searching for meaning and connection in a world that
Yeah,
can often feel chaotic and overwhelming.
absolutely.
So as we kind of wrap up this exploration of this Reddit thread,
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave you with a final thought-provoking question.
Okay, I like it.
Something to kind of ponder as you continue on your own journey. So imagine for a second that, like, money was no object
Okay.
and circumstances were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
What would hold you back then?
Ooh, that's a powerful question.
What inner barriers would remain?
Right. It challenges us to look inward
Yeah.
and confront those limitations that we often impose on ourselves.
Because even if you took away all the external stuff,
Yeah,
there's still that inner critic,
absolutely.
right? Those beliefs that say
Mm-hmm.
you're not good enough or you'll fail or what's the point?
And those internal barriers can be the toughest ones to break through
Oh, for sure.
because they're so deeply rooted in past experiences, in societal conditioning,
Yeah.
and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we're capable of.
So maybe living your best life
Mm-hmm.
actually starts with confronting those inner demons.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
It's about challenging those limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
cultivating self-compassion,
Yeah.
embracing our imperfections,
Yeah.
and believing in our own potential.
And I love that you said believing in our own potential because
Yep.
it's not about like reaching this
Right,
state of
right.
perfection.
It's not a destination.
Right.
It's a process.
It's ongoing.
Yes,
It's
it's
continuous.
about
Yeah.
showing up every day, doing the work,
Yeah.
and choosing to move forward even when it's hard.
And who knows, maybe by acknowledging those internal obstacles,
Yeah,
we can start to break them down and create space for something really amazing.
absolutely. I think you're right. It's about recognizing that we all have limitations,
Yeah.
but those limitations don't define us.
Right.
We have the power to choose how we respond to them, to grow from them,
Yeah.
and ultimately create a life that feels authentic and fulfilling on our own terms.
This has been such a fascinating conversation.
It really has.
I love these deep dives because they really get you thinking.
Yeah, me too. It's so interesting to kind of peer into the minds of others.
Yeah, and just to realize that
Mm-hmm.
we're all in this together.
We are.
You know, we all have our own unique struggles, but
Yeah.
there's also this shared human experience
Absolutely.
that connects us all.
And that's the beauty of it, right?
Exactly. So to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Ask Reddit.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination.
Embrace the messiness.
Celebrate those small victories
And never stop exploring.
because that's what makes life and these deep dives so incredibly interesting.